بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, welcome to the first session that we're having inshaAllah with this series regarding the signs of Qiyamah, the signs of the last days. As we're all witnessing, the world is going through turmoil, everybody's going through difficult times, we're seeing rapid changes in the world, and a person tends to wonder, in which direction are we headed? What is going to happen to the world? Where are we going to end up? So rapidly we see things change. Within the snap of our fingers, life changes very, very dramatically, and it's a great reminder for everyone that this world is not everlasting. This world is not a place of putting all of your refuge, all of your energy, all of your focus. The world is not meant for that. The thing that is meant to put your energy and put your focus and put all your trust and all of your reliance, that is only in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is only for the akhirah. That is only for the hereafter. This world, it will never grant a person satisfaction. And that is why Al-Jannah, that is why paradise, it is the place of eternal bliss, where that goodness will never change. That goodness, it will never become expired. In this dunya, in this world, the good things that you have, they're destined for expiry. Any blessing that you have, my dear brothers and sisters, anything that you own, anything that you have, any talent, any good thing, whether it's physical, whether it's a material thing, or whether it's a spiritual thing, whatever it is of this world that you have, it has an expiry date. It's going to expire one day. And relatively speaking, that expiry date is pretty short. It's coming pretty soon. And that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger alayhi salam have constantly reminded us in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salam, that expiry date is coming. It's going to grow rotten one day, whatever it may be. The only place or the only thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us, and it's everlasting, it's something good, it's beautiful, it's ultimate bliss, and it's never going to change. It will never expire. That only thing is Jannah. And all of these circumstances that we see around us, they're just reminders for that. That don't put your heart all on the dunya. It's not going to be the ultimate source of happiness. It's not what's going to be the cause of satisfaction and contentment. So, my brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, we've decided to start this series, SIDDEEQ-institute and Peninsula Islamic Association, just for us to come back to our beginnings, come back to our roots, and understand what Rasulullah ﷺ, what our deen teaches us in times like this, what the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam taught us with regards to the last day and Yawm al-Qiyamah. Now some people might wonder, what's the benefit of having this series? Right? You're learning about Qiyamah, the signs of Qiyamah. Whether you know about it or not, Qiyamah is going to happen. Right? Whether you know or not, when Allah has destined something, it's going to take place. So some people might wonder, what's the point of having this series? What's the benefit of learning the signs of Qiyamah? Right? Because whether you know about it or not, it's going to happen. It's going to take place. So some of the benefits and some of the reasons why we're having this series, why we're learning about the signs of Qiyamah. Al-awwalu, number one, the reason why we're learning this, it is a subject of great importance. It is something that is not to be undermined. And we learn that every prophet, every messenger that came to this world. And as we know, there were an odd 120,000, over that number, messengers and prophets that came to their nations since this earth was created. And no prophet came to their nation except that they taught them about Qiyamah and the signs of Qiyamah. Every prophet taught it to their nation. And that's why you'll see, in other faiths and in other religions also, you will see that they talk about apocalypse, they talk about the end of times, they talk about the day when everything will end. Right? And that's part of the reason why, is because every prophet taught this. Every messenger, they taught this. So it shows us this is something of utmost importance. And as we know, the Anbiya, the prophets that were sent from the time of Adam alayhi salam, our father Adam, and then we had Nuh alayhi salam, Noah, going on, Prophet Moses, Musa alayhi salam, Harun alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Jesus. All of these prophets, they were all brothers. And they taught the same core values. And what were those core values? La ilaha illallah. There's one Allah. Tawheed. There's one God. There's one ultimate being. There's one ultimate divine being that deserves our worship. And He is the only one that we should turn our attention towards. He is the only one that deserves our worship. Every prophet, they had this core belief of Tawheed. Now with the external shariats and the religions and the external laws, all of these different Anbiya, they differed. So for example, minor things. For example, the way we make wudu, the way we purify ourselves, the way we pray. Certain laws regarding these external things, there may have been differences here and there, but the core beliefs were always the same with every prophet. And from amongst these core things that every prophet taught was that there is a Qiyamah. There is a time that's going to come where this earth is going to end. All of the hustle and bustle, all of the worries and concerns, all of the enjoyments and blessings that people have on this earth, it's all going to come to an end one day. And that is a fact. So this is a topic which all of the prophets taught. And this is something that inshallah we'll be learning about. And it's amazing, if you look at the hadith literature, you look at all of the big and important books of hadith. I'm talking about like Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Tirmidhi, all of these really, really great books of hadith which have been written in our Islamic history. Every one of them, you'll see it has a chapter which is called, Alamatu Sa'a or Ashratu Sa'a, the signs of the hour, the signs of the last day, the signs of Qiyamah. All of these books, they have a chapter dedicated for it. And you'll see in Islamic history, there were many ulama and many scholars that had dedicated specific individual books that they had authored on the topic. So it has been something not only in Islamic history, but in the history of the world. This has been something which importance and attention has definitely been granted towards this. So that's the first benefit we get. Is number one, we're following in the footsteps of all of the Anbiya, not just our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but learning and teaching about Qiyamah and its signs. This is a noble endeavor which every Prophet went through. Number two, learning about Qiyamah, learning about the Ashratu Sa'a and the signs of the last days, this is what we call min talab al-ilm. This is part of seeking knowledge. And as we know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught us that the person who leaves their home in search of knowledge, many of us online, you probably haven't left your homes, but maybe you left your bedroom and you're sitting in the living room somewhere. So inshallah you'll also get the reward. فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ حَتَّى يَرْجِعْ. That person will be considered in the path of Allah all the way until they return. And the other hadith the Prophet ﷺ mentioned مَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَلْتَمِسُ فِيهِ عِلْمًا. The person who travels on a path seeking knowledge. Then what happens because of that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make their pathway to Jannah easy for them, on account of them taking the time and the effort and the energy and the difficulties of seeking knowledge. So today, you put all of your things to the side, all of your responsibilities and different things that you could be doing on a Friday night, you put it to the side, you go through that little bit of difficulty, and you do something that's beneficial for your deen, that's beneficial for your akhirah, for your hereafter. You put those things to the side, you go through that little bit of difficulty. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? That because of that difficulty that you're going through, for His sake, your pathway to go to Jannah, your pathway to reach paradise, that pathway will be made easy for you. In other words, you can say it's like the steps and the difficulties that you take now to seek knowledge, it's like you're paving your way towards Jannah. You're trailblazing your way towards Jannah. Each step that you take, you're like digging out all the shrubs and all the weeds and all of the thorns that are in your pathway towards Jannah. You're just digging all of that out and clearing the pathway. Your path towards Jannah will be very, very easy for you. So number 2, learning about this thing, this is part of seeking knowledge. And my dear brothers and sisters, I know today, due to circumstances, there's a lot of online programs, a lot of people are learning things and taking courses and learning things online. MashaAllah, we have a lot of access towards good. That's something that's very beneficial, but we must remember, seeking knowledge, it's an ibadah. Seeking knowledge, it's an ibadah. It's an act of worship. When you're learning something about your religion, you are literally in every moment, you are in a state of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will learn from other ahadith that when the talibul ilm, when a seeker of knowledge sits down, and when he's walking, and when he's traveling on his path or her path, the angels in honor of that person, they spread their wings below that person's feet. In honor and in respect. Now look at this person, look at this human being. A person that Allah, that God has given them the ability to do anything they want. They could do good, they could do bad, they could do anything. But of all of the busyness in their lives, all of the things that they could have involved in, this person has chose to learn about Allah. Learn about God, learn about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, learn about their religion, learn about the next world. In honor of that, they say, wow, we're going to put our wings for this person. You're in a state of ibadah, right? Angels surround you. It's a very reputable position. It's one of the greatest positions that a person could be in. And when malaika and angels surround you, it's part of a person's spiritual development. What does that mean? That means, at every moment, the shaitan and the devil and all of his friends and his companions and his workers, they have a mission that they want to complete. That mission is to spread misguidance, is to spread darkness, is to take people away from that path. And Allah's angels, the malaika which are out there, their duty is to follow goodness and to spread goodness. And just their mere presence is a form of goodness. So when they are around you, that spiritual vibe, that spiritual connection is felt between you and them. And it impacts a person's heart. It impacts the way you think. It impacts the way you feel. It impacts your spirituality. It impacts your connection with Allah. The presence of those angels. Now, when those angels are surrounding you, how much of their presence can you intake? How much of their presence, right? Because angels, they're nur, they're light, they're full of goodness. How can you channel that energy or that goodness from the malaika and bring it into yourself? It depends on your intention. It depends on your purity. It depends on your focus. It depends on your adab. It depends with how much sincerity you sit to learn something. And that's why we always mention these things. It's very, very important that seeking knowledge is not just about learning numbers, learning ayat, learning verses, memorizing them and repeating them. Learning interesting stuff and wow, you have something to talk about on the dinner table. No. Knowledge is something that it comes, yes, into your ears, it comes into your brain, and ultimately it's supposed to come into our hearts. And how does it reach the heart? It reaches the heart based on your intention, based on your purity, based on how highly you think of what you're learning. When you have all of these good intentions, inshallah, you will see that the benefit will be there. So this is another point. Why we're learning about Qiyamah is because this is min babi talab al-ilm. This is part of seeking knowledge. And since you're seeking knowledge and it's an ibadah, make sure you are focused. Make sure you're listening attentively. Right? Make sure you're sitting in a good manner. Right? I know a lot of times, we like to take advantage of the technology that we have. So mashallah, while we're driving, while the sisters are vacuuming, doing the dishes, the bayan is going on, and we talk to this person, we talk to that person. Oh, be quiet, here's an interesting part. Alright, that part's done. Okay, let's talk again. Let's focus on this, let's focus on that. We're doing 10, 20 things at the same time. That's not how you get benefit. Look at when you perform salah. What is salah? It's an ibadah. Salah, the prayer, it's an act of worship. So what happens when you pray? There's no talking. There's no looking left and right. Even if the Kaaba is in front of you, you're not supposed to look at the Kaaba even. You're supposed to look down because you're now in an act of worship. Right? Imagine. In salah, each specific motion, that's where you're supposed to read the appropriate thing. Because it's an act of ibadah. You're in an act of worship. You have to be very, very strict. You have to be very, very particular. So part of seeking knowledge is that you have that adab and respect for what you're learning. Third, when you learn about the signs of the ends of times, it helps you prepare for it. You see the things that are happening around you. Oh, that's exactly what I learned. Look, it's happening in front of you. You're preparing now. You're ready. You're taking action. You are reminded. In every class, you are reminded, this world is not forever. It's temporary. Once you get that reminder, it helps you prepare. And that's the ultimate thing. Respected listeners, my dear brothers and sisters, the ultimate thing of this class, of this lecture series, is preparation for your Qiyamah. Preparation for your Akhirah. If you memorize everything about this course, you have the perfect image of Dajjal's eye in your mind. It's just perfect. If you could describe it, you'll paint the perfect picture of it. That's not the point. The point is, you are ready for Dajjal when he comes, the Antichrist. You are ready when, the zalazil and the earthquakes and the tornadoes and all of these things start happening. And all of the fitan, all the tribulations. When all of these things happen, you are prepared for it. And you are ready for the next life. That is the ultimate purpose of this. Just like, for example, you have an appointment, you get reminders here and there. They send you a text message, they send you an email. This course, that's exactly what it is. We are getting these reminders, we're getting these so-called text messages and emails that, look, whatever you're going through right now, whether it's good or bad, it's coming to an end. The good things that you have right now, it's coming to an end. Don't be attached to it. Right? Don't be attached to luxury. Don't be attached to material things. It's going to leave you. And if you're going through hard times, you're going through difficulties, don't despair. Life is temporary. It's going to end. The real life, which is eternal, that is still coming. And beautifully, very beautifully, Rasulullah ﷺ, he mentioned in a hadith where a person came to him and he said, "Mata as-sa'atu ya Rasulullah?" He said, "When will the day of judgment be? When will the last day be, O Rasulullah?" So in reply, what did the Messenger ﷺ say? You would expect him to say, Imam Mahdi will come, Dajjal will come, the earthquakes will happen, and then Qiyamah will take place. Then the hereafter will take place. But what did the Prophet ﷺ reply? He said, "Ma a'dadta laha." He said, you're asking when Qiyamah will take place. Why don't you answer this first? What have you prepared for it? What have you prepared? That's the ultimate thing. What have you prepared for that moment? You could know everything about it. Right? For example, you have a flight coming tomorrow. Okay? Imagine, all of us here, we have a flight tomorrow. And where is the flight going? It's going to Greenland, just as an example. So now somebody does their research and they learn everything about it. What is Greenland? What time is it going to be there when we land? What's the weather going to be like? What do I need to pack? What don't I need to pack? All of those details, they study everything about it. And then what happens? The morning of the flight, they pack one pair of clothes, throw it in the bag, and they're there at the airport. Have they benefited from all of that knowledge, all of that research, finding out the weather, finding out what type of clothes? They didn't even prepare. They didn't even pack their bags. Right? So this lecture series, my dear brothers and sisters, the purpose is pack your bags. That's what it's for. Learn the conditions of the akhirah. Learn what's going to happen and pack your bags for it. Be ready for it. And how will you be ready? How will you pack your bags? Taqwa. Consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Consciousness of the next world. Crushing your desires. Crushing your love of this world. Crushing your love of materialistic things. And being prepared that right now, if all of these things were taken from me, how would I be able to react? How would I be able to survive? That's number 3, is preparation for that. Number 4, the fourth benefit that we get is removing false information. Removing false information. For example, so many people have their conspiracy theories. Y2K, the year 2000, the world is going to end. Right? Exactly on this year, 2023, the world is going to dramatically come to an end. And the White House is going to just crumble into pieces. That's going to be the first sign. You know, people come up with all sorts of ajaib wa gharaib. So many weird and interesting, and where they get this from, I don't know. But the purpose of this is we can understand, what did the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he say? Minus and subtract all of the garbage that's out there, all of the conspiracy theories, and this is going to happen, and that is going to happen, which has absolutely no basis. Cancel all of that out of our minds, and focus on what's the truth. You will know what that is when you've studied this. Right? Some people make all of their very, very far-fetched and ajib theories. Donald Trump is Dajjal. Donald Trump is Dajjal. Just give it a couple of months. You know, Biden is going to knock his eye out and he's going to have one eye. So he's going to be Dajjal. You'll see it and happen by 2023. These types of things, there's no genuine knowledge behind this. It's just nonsense. People make things up in order to scare people, motivate people to wake up. Wow, judgment is coming. We don't need false signs. We know it's coming. I remember one time I was in the masjid and there was a program taking place. So one person, he got up and he was trying to make sure that all the kids, they stay for the program and they don't run outside to go play. So he thought of a very creative way how to keep these kids inside. So what did he do? He said, make sure you stay for the talk and the program that's happening after the prayer. And he goes, you know why? He says, because one time there was a talk like this taking place, and the kids who didn't stay, they ran outside to go play, and they all just dropped dead and died right there. And now all the kids, they're like gasping, they can't breathe, they're all sitting so nicely, they're so scared, and they want to make sure that they sit because they don't want to die as soon as they go outside. We don't need false information for motivation. We have enough motivation from the Quran and from the Sunnah of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Somebody's messaging here and saying Donald Trump is the Dajjal. So all of these things which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned, these are not mere predictions. These are not words that are maybes. These are not things that are, yeah, it could be, maybe not, maybe so. No. These are inspirations that have come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are inspirations that have come directly from God, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La rayba fihi. There is no doubt in the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he doesn't speak from his own desires. He doesn't speak from what suits him, what he thinks is good. Whatever he says, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. Whatever words he says, it is inspiration that is inspired to him from Allah. That's what comes from the Prophet ﷺ. Not all of this he said, she said, and conspiracy theory and making all stuff up here and there. That's the fourth. Number 5. Learning about the ends of times, it gives a person ease. It gives you tranquility. Now how does that happen? When you're learning about the signs of Qiyamah, you're going to learn about earthquakes and fires and famines and wars and all these types of things. How does that give you ease? It gives you ease in the sense that you know what to expect. Sahaba radiallahu anhum, when things went bad, they were calm people. It's not like they couldn't breathe and they were shaking. No. They were calm. They were aware. They were ready. And what did they say? The Prophet ﷺ, he already warned us what's going to happen. We don't need to become worried. We don't need to become scared. We're prepared for this. We've already heard about this from before. Imagine that there's a person, he's going for a surgery for the first time ever. Nobody tells him anything about what a surgery is. They say, hey, we're just going to take you in and you'll feel better after. That's all they tell him. So what happens, he goes inside, the anesthesia still hasn't kicked in, and he's awake, and next thing you know, he sees the surgeon bringing out a cart, and it's full of all these knives and cutting utensils. What's going to happen to him? Like, sir, that's what you mean by surgery? You're going to cut me? And this? Saad is looking at me because his pinky. He's going to have a heart attack. He's going to be so afraid. I wasn't expecting this. I thought I was going to come here and feel better. The doctor's going to read some dua on my finger and I'm going to go home happy. What is all these knives and cutting and all of this? I'm not ready for that. He's going to be very, very afraid. But now if beforehand they tell him, look, don't worry. You're going to see some knives. You might see some sharp objects. But don't worry, it's for your betterment. It's going to fix you up. This is what we're going to do. This is the procedure. And inshallah afterwards, things will be a lot better. Now he comes into the hospital. He sees all of those things there. How is he going to react? He's going to be like, doctor already told me about this. I'm not surprised. This is not something that, I'm scared of. This is something that I've already known about. The Prophet ﷺ already told me about this. So that's part of it, is it gives you a bit of ease when difficulties come, when all of the alamat, when all of the signs start to happen. That is when a person will be at ease. And the last one, dear brothers and sisters, the 6th benefit of learning about the signs of Qiyamah. And this is the greatest one in my opinion, is number 6. It builds your faith and your conviction in Islam. Because the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he foretold many things that will happen. Many things that will happen. He foretold and he prophesied, this is going to happen, that is going to happen, you'll see this, you'll see that. And one by one, each one of these things, they have manifested in the past, and they will continue to manifest, show themselves all the way until the day of Qiyamah. All the way until the ends of time. And what does this show us? It shows us one thing. The Prophet ﷺ, he is true. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he's not speaking from his own side. He's not coming for his own agenda. He's not coming for his own mission. He is speaking what Allah and what God has commanded him to speak. Otherwise, there is absolutely no way that he would have known these things from before. So as a quick recap, 6 benefits and 6 reasons why we're learning about the signs of Qiyamah. Number 1, we're following the way of the prophets. No prophet came except that they taught their nation. Number 2, this is part of seeking knowledge. The Prophet ﷺ has commanded us to seek knowledge. It's our pathway of making Jannah easy for us. Number 3, it helps you be prepared. Number 4, you get rid of all that false information. Number 5, it gives you ease. And number 6, it builds your faith and your conviction in Islam and in the words of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. There's a hadith mentioned in Sahih Muslim. Huzayfah ibn al-Yaman radiyallahu anhu narrates. He says that one day after Salatul Fajr, khatabana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. After the Fajr Salah, the Prophet ﷺ got on the minbar and he started to give a khutbah. He started to give a lecture. He started to give a reminder. How long was this reminder? From Fajr Salah, it went all the way until Salatul Dhuhr. That's a very long time. Dhuhr is like, the afternoon time, 1:30 p.m. 1:30, 2 o'clock, the khutbah went all the way on until Dhuhr time. Very, very long time. And when you thought that's a lot, they took a break for Salatul Dhuhr, for the prayer. And right after Salatul Dhuhr, the Prophet ﷺ got back onto the minbar and he continued the khutbah all the way till Salatul Asr. And then they prayed Salatul Asr, and again the Prophet ﷺ got onto the minbar and he continued the khutbah all the way till Maghrib, which is sunset. So basically from Fajr all the way till sunset, non-stop, Rasulullah ﷺ was giving the khutbah and giving the lecture. And Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman radiyallahu anhu, he says, everything that happened in the past and everything that will happen in the future, the Prophet ﷺ told us in that khutbah. حَفِظَهَا مَنْ حَفِظ. Whoever remembered, they remembered. And whoever forgot, they forgot. But everything was mentioned in that khutbah. So again, the importance of this topic, the importance of this subject. Would Rasulullah ﷺ spend an entire day talking from Fajr until Maghrib on a topic that held no importance? He spoke about it because it has its importance and it has its place in Islam. And Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman radiyallahu anhu, he says, some of those signs that he mentioned, some of those things that he talked about which would happen, I forgot. I didn't remember. And then he says, on some days, those things would become apparent to me. I would see it happen in front of me. And then I would remember, remember in that khutbah, Prophet ﷺ taught us about this. He told us this would happen, and then he would see it manifest. And he says, it was kind of like an old friend, a person that you see regularly, and then you kind of forget about them because you haven't seen them, you haven't got a call from them or a message from them, you kind of forget they exist. And then suddenly you go to the masjid or you go somewhere, you go shopping and then you see them and you're like, this guy, I remember him, Assalamu alaikum, how are you? You forgot that he was there, but then when you saw him, it reminded you. So Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman radiyallahu anhu, he says, some of those things I had forgotten, but then when I would see it manifest, then it would come to my mind, the Prophet ﷺ, he did tell us about this. And in another hadith we see the very famous hadith, which we call Hadith Jibreel. This is one of the pivotal narrations, foundational narrations of Islam. And it's a very authentic hadith, narrated from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. He says that one day, I know it's going to take a while if I read it word for word, so I'll just summarize. Basically what happened was, one day the companions radiyallahu anhum, they were sitting with the Prophet ﷺ. And usually, the senior companions, they were very formal with the Prophet ﷺ. They had this awe of him. They couldn't directly look at him in his eyes. When the Prophet ﷺ would be sitting there, they would kind of look down. If they did look up, they would kind of look up shyly and then look down again. And it's a very interesting thing. That's why you'll see in the Shama'il. Shama'il means the description of the Prophet ﷺ, how he looked. We have in our corpus of narrations, Imam Tirmidhi rahimahullah, he's compiled Ash-Shama'il al-Muhammadiyah, exactly how Rasulullah ﷺ looked. His eyes, his eyelashes, his eyebrows, his stature, the shape of his face, his hair, everything in detail. So anyway, in that you'll see the companions who narrate his description, they're mostly junior companions. Because the juniors, they were the ones that could kind of peek and look up. But the seniors, they couldn't look. There was too much awe, there was too much reverence, there was too much respect. How can I stare at him in his eyes and in his face? I can't do that. So the detailed description was by the juniors. So they had a lot of awe. And part of this awe was that they would not bombard the Prophet ﷺ with questions. One question after the next. No, they wouldn't do that. Very seldom would they ask. And sometimes the people from the desert, the Bedouins would come. And that was a happy time for the senior companions. Because the people of the desert, the Bedouins, they didn't have that much adab. They didn't have that much etiquettes. They weren't so cultured like the people of the city. They're very informal. Not that they were bad people, na'udhu billah. They were very, very good people, but just very, very informal. They're from the desert. They don't care about these kinds of things. They're not formal people. So when they would come, they would ask. And you see that there are some narrations, for example, some of the companions, radiyallahu anhum, they asked very clearly, very informal. They said, "O Messenger of Allah, give us some advice, but please keep it short." That's how they were. Give us some advice, please, but just keep it short. Not that they were being disrespectful. They were just very genuine, simple-minded people. So what happened was, a person came from the Bedouin lands. He was not known as a resident of Medina Munawwara. And then what happens? He sits in front of the Prophet ﷺ. He puts his knees, his thighs, close to the thighs to the knees of the Prophet ﷺ. Basically joining knees together. Again, showing you that true knowledge is heart to heart. He sits in front. He puts his hands on his thighs in a very, very respectable way, with lots of adab, with lots of etiquette and respect. He sits in such a good way. And the companions, they said, he wasn't a resident of Medina, so we didn't know him. We know everybody that's from Medina. If you're a close-knit community, you know if somebody's from outside. But now the interesting thing was that when this man came in, his hair was jet black long hair. And his clothes, completely white. Shadidu sawad al-sha'r. And his clothes were extremely white. Shadidu bayad al-thiyab, shadidu sawad al-sha'r. Dark hair and white clothes. And usually if a person's coming out of the desert, then what happens? They're going to be dirty, the hair is going to be dusty. It's not going to be jet black, it's going to be jet brown from all of the sand and dust that is collected everywhere. So they knew when an outsider would come in from a far distance, they could tell. But this man, his hair is perfectly fine, his clothes are completely clean, but he's not from Medina, we don't even know him. So they were kind of like, who is this man? Where'd he come from? And how is he so neat? How is he so clean if he's come from outside and we don't know him? So the person came and he asked the Messenger ﷺ a series of questions. And he says, أخبرني عن الإسلام. He says, can you tell me, O Muhammad ﷺ, what is Islam? So the Prophet ﷺ explains to him, what is Islam? It's that you bear witness there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad ﷺ is His messenger, and you perform the salah, you perform the prayer, and you give the charity, and you fast the month of Ramadan, and you perform the sacred pilgrimage, the Hajj, if you are able to do so. And upon this, the person, he said, Sadaqta, you've spoken the truth. So then the companions, they said, how is this? You're asking a question and then you're saying you told the truth. How can you, why would you ask a question and then say, oh, you've spoken the truth? Right? If you're asking a question, that means you want to know. So they were kind of surprised at that also. And going on, the Prophet ﷺ, he continued to answer the questions. He eventually asked, what is ihsan? What is that very great spiritual state? Prophet ﷺ explained, it is that you worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you do not see Him, then at least know that He sees you. Either you pray as if you see Him, worship Him as if you're seeing Him in front of you. And if you can't reach that stage, just know that He sees you. And then he went on to the next question. He said, أخبرني عن الساعة. Tell me about the hour. And usually sa'a, in the Arabic language, we say sa'a as hour, but sa'a does not have to mean hour. Sa'a can also mean a moment. So it doesn't mean that the day of judgment is going to be 1 hour only. Sa'a means like the moment it strikes, the moment it hits you. It's that moment when the world is going to end. That's why it's called sa'a. So he said, when is the sa'a? When is the last day? And Rasulullah ﷺ, he said, مَا الْمَسْئُولُ عَنْهَا بِأَعْلَمَ مِنَ السَّائِلِ. He said that the questioner, the one who's asked, does not know more than the one who's asking. In other words, I don't know, nor do you. That is something that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, when Qiyamah will take place. When will the last day be? And then he says, فَأَخْبِرْنِي عَنْ أَمَارَتِهَا. Then can you tell me some of its signs? The exact time and date, that's with Allah, but can you tell me some of its signs? So then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَن تَلِدَ الْأَمَةُ رَبَّتَهَا. Number one, that a woman will give birth to her master. A slave girl, a woman, will give birth to her master. And second, you will see poor, destitute people, barefoot, shepherds, people who watch sheep. They look after the sheep. Poor, destitute people, suddenly what will you find? يَتَطَاوَلُونَ فِي الْبُنْيَانِ. They are outdoing each other in how tall and humongous they'll build their buildings. Their structures, how tall and how high it could be. Right? And exactly what we're seeing today. The age of skyscrapers, the age of, competing in who can make the tallest building, Burj Khalifa, etc., etc. We're not going to go into all the details of that. You can check all that up on your own. How tall it is, how much money was spent on it, how much high in the air, how much planning went into this. Think about it, my brothers and sisters. This is amongst the signs of the ends of times. That what does this show you? It shows you that the hearts of mankind are going to become materialistic. They're going to lose all emotion. They'll hire people to work literally like slaves. They'll take their passports away and lock them up and keep them like indentured servants. Make them work. Why? So we can have this fame and honor. Our building is the highest in the world. That's the only reason why. It's for our name and fame. So we can have something to be proud about. That we've done something so amazing. While people are starving. While there are children who don't have food to eat. We don't care about them. Those people don't matter. What matters? Our satisfaction that people need to recognize us. Our fame. Our reputation. وَأَن تَلِدَ الْأَمَةُ رَبَّتَهَا. And a slave girl will give birth to her master. In other words, a parent will give birth to this child who's supposed to be obedient to the mother, obedient to her parents, listen to what they say, be at their service. That child will now become their master. Opposite. In other words, the structure of society, that structure that Allah has placed, that parents should be the one on top, children should be the ones on, that whole structure that is made for success, that will be overturned. And obviously when that happens, corruption and turmoil is going to happen. The parents who are supposed to be the guiders, the caretakers of those children, it's going to be opposite. They will not learn guidance from their parents. Where else will they learn from? They'll do what they want. They're the masters now. They are the ones who are in charge. And it's interesting, today I was talking to my dad and he was telling me a story about when he was working taxi cab. So he said, this is just one of stories, this is not that bad, but we hear stories, na'udhu billah. Today there are people that beat their parents. There are people that literally, they're in jail because they've shot and killed their own mother or father. Na'udhu billah. Such mothers and fathers who did nothing but good to them. Nothing but look after them. Nothing but care for them. That emotion of empathy and concern for others snatched out from people's hearts. This is just the beginning. This is just a few of the signs in this one hadith that the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned. And so going on to that story, my father told me, he said, with the taxi company, they had a deal with the juvenile hall. Juvenile hall is like the jail for people who are under 18. So they used to pick them up and drop them home. So he said he goes to the juvenile hall and he picks up this young girl, probably like 15, 16 years old, and he's getting ready to drop her home. So she says, can we stop at the liquor store or the gas station? He said, why? Buy me some cigarettes. 15, 16-year-old girl. Where is she coming out from? Juvenile hall. So already no shame that you're coming out from that place. And secondly, you're asking an old man to buy you some cigarettes. The taxi driver, buy me some cigarettes. So he tells her, he says, I can't do that. You're underage. And, plus I got no cash on me. So she said, that's okay. Buy it with your credit card. Right? Keep on, exactly what Prophet ﷺ said. They're going to be like the masters over people above them. Oh, you don't got cash? Well, use your card then. Drive me there. Take me there. I'm the one in charge. And then she goes on and she says, you know what? Don't drop me home. Can you drop me to my friend's house over here at this address? So my dad tells her, no, I can't do that. I have to drop you to your house. I got to get the signature of your mom. That's part of my duty. Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble. So what does she say? She said, you know what? Even if you take me home, it's not going to make a difference. Because my parents can't tell me what to do. I'm going to be out of there within the first minute. And you'll see. Says, whatever, I got to get that signature from your parents. He goes, he drops her. The mom comes out, signs the paper, everything, so that they know that he dropped her to the right place. And he says, just as soon as he dropped her and he got that signature, he's coming out of that complex, and he sees this girl who's already on the sidewalk, she's already on the highway, and she's waving. He says, see, I told you, you should have dropped me back there. You wasted your time coming here. I told you, I'm going to be gone in the snap of a finger. So again, أَن تَلِدَ الْأَمَةُ رَبَّتَهَا. These are two of the signs mentioned in this specific hadith, in Hadith Jibreel. And the reason why we mention this is again because this hadith is from the foundations of Islam, and it's one of the things that the Prophet ﷺ talked about. And then eventually the Prophet ﷺ asked, do you know who that man was, O Umar? Why he had such nice hair, no signs of travel? Why he looked so good? That was Jibreel alayhi salam. Ataakum yu'allimukum deenakum. He came to teach you your deen. That was Jibreel alayhi salam. So now, when we think of Qiyamah, when we think of Sa'ah, we think of something that's far, far away. Something that's really, really far off. We don't got to really worry about it right now. يَسْتَعْجِلُ بِهَا الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهَا. The people who don't believe, they ask for it to come fast. Oh, Qiyamah, there's such a thing? Yeah, okay, bring it. We want to see it. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مُشْفِقُونَ مِنْهَا. Allah mentions in the Quran, what is the quality of a believer when they think of Qiyamah? How is your mindset when it comes to Qiyamah? Oh, Qiyamah is going to come, whatever, just do what you got to do. No. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مُشْفِقُونَ مِنْهَا. The people who believe, they have fear of Qiyamah. They have fear of that day. They are worried about that day coming upon them. They're worried that they have not prepared enough. They are worried how they will face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day. Qiyamah is not something small. Qiyamah is that day where mountains will turn to dust. It will be scattered in the, like cotton, pieces of cotton just flying around. Mountains will burst like this. The sky crumbling down. It's not a small affair. And when we think about it, we say Qiyamah is far off. Qiyamah is far, far away. But the Prophet ﷺ, he said, بُعِثْتُ أَنَا وَالسَّاعَةُ كَهَاتَيْنِ. He said, I have been sent, yani as a prophet, and the day of Qiyamah like this. See these two fingers? See how close they are? I and Qiyamah, we've been sent like this. So that means, they say either the distance in between here, which is close, it's connected, or this distance here. right? Because the index finger and the middle finger, that little gap that you see. بُعِثْتُ أَنَا وَالسَّاعَةُ كَهَاتَيْنِ. Like this we've been sent. So that's why the ulama say, the first sign of Qiyamah is what? The birth of Rasulullah ﷺ. That's the first sign. The sign has already come 1400 years ago. Think about it. The first sign of the ends of time has already happened 1400 years ago. And here we are 1400 years later thinking that, hey, we still got time, man, don't worry. Chill, relax. Man, have you seen Dajjal? You haven't seen Dajjal? You heard of Mahdi? There's nobody named Mahdi yet. Chill, relax, you still have time. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when the winds used to blow hard, right? Just think about it. The winds used to blow hard a little bit. Right away, the Prophet ﷺ, he would get up and he would perform salah. And he would be afraid that it's Qiyamah. It's the last day. Right? That extreme environment with winds and hurricanes. He would immediately get up and he would perform salah. Here we are 1400 years later and we think Qiyamah is far. Prophet ﷺ was running to perform salah because he thought it was Qiyamah. What does that show? It's near. It's close. And especially if you compare the beginning of the world till now. The Prophet ﷺ has given the example that the previous nations, they were like from Fajr time till Asr time. If you compare the age of the earth, how long it will live, from Fajr to Maghrib. Let's say the world will live, humanity, existence will be when? From Fajr to Maghrib, from sunrise to sunset. The previous nations, they have lived from Fajr until Asr. And our ummah now is what? Asr to Maghrib. That's such a short time. Right now, Fajr is what? 6 o'clock. 6 a.m. And Maghrib, 7 p.m. That's like the whole lifespan of the earth. The previous nations, they've covered from Fajr to Asr, which is till about 5:30, 5:45. So now we're left 5:45 till 6:45. Asr to Maghrib. That's it. If you want to compare from beginning of time to the end of time, we are Asr to Maghrib. And that's why Prophet ﷺ said, بُعِثْتُ أَنَا وَالسَّاعَةُ كَهَاتَيْنِ. And that's the first sign of Qiyamah, is the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, Qiyamah is definitely not something that's far away. Qiyamah is definitely not something that we should take lightly. And inshallah, this is our first class, so I'm not going to go too much into details, but some of the things that we're going to cover, you know, you have the minor signs, you have the major signs. Minor signs are things like things that will become rampant, things that will become very, very common, which was not common in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, but we see it happening now, a lot of these things. Those are the minor signs. And then the major signs, which we will get into inshallah, are the bigger things like the Antichrist, Dajjal coming. What is he going to look like? How is he going to come? Where will he appear? All these kinds of things. Who is he? All of that type of information, inshallah, is going to be coming up ahead. As we move forward, we're going to start with the signs which the Prophet ﷺ predicted, and they already happened. Many of those minor signs, they already happened. So we're going to start, inshallah, with those signs which the Prophet ﷺ talked about, which already happened. And we will make our way towards the signs which will eventually happen in the future, inshallah. The first sign which has already taken place, the birth of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And inshallah next week we will continue on with the next signs. And once again, this is our first lecture of this series. We hope inshallah everyone benefits and is able to join us every week. And remember, the purpose of this is so that we could become closer to Allah. This is not a entertainment show. You know, some people, when you think of Dajjal and it's like a wow, nice story, it's like, you know, Armageddon, wow, let's sit back and enjoy our ice cream and listen to this lecture. Dajjal is going to come and his one eye is going to be poking out like Cyclops. This is not for that. This is for reflection. This is for pondering. This is for strengthening your iman. This is for learning that Qiyamah is coming, the ends of times are near. Get yourself ready and be prepared for what's going to happen. And if you still think Qiyamah is far, what if I were to tell you everyone that's listening to this, you'll live to see Qiyamah. Everyone that's here, you will live to see Qiyamah. Then, the Prophet ﷺ said, the person who dies, فَقَدْ قَامَتْ قِيَامَتُهُ. When a person dies, their Qiyamah has taken place. Is everyone going to die? Hamza, are you going to die? Yes. You're going to die. Everyone's going to die. So when you die, that is your Qiyamah. Everyone will experience Qiyamah. When you die, that's your first step into the Akhirah. And Qiyamah, what does it do? It removes from this world and takes a person to the next, the Akhirah. So Qiyamah is near in whichever way you want to take it. Whether it's the real Qiyamah or whether it's death. What do you think about the Simpsons predicting stuff 5-6 years ago that are happening now, like Donald Trump becoming president and him dying in January? Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu a'lam. You know, in this, what we're going to cover is what the Prophet ﷺ said. And the possibilities that are out there, la yuhsa. There are so many possibilities. You can't enumerate the possibilities that are out there. But what is wrong with people is when we take a hadith or we take a certain teaching of the Prophet ﷺ and then we stick it onto something and say, yeah, exactly what this hadith said, exactly it's for that. We don't know. We don't know exactly what it's for. We take what the Prophet ﷺ said. It's possible that it's this, it's possible that it's that. Wallahu a'lam. Our job is ma a'dadta laha, what the Prophet ﷺ replied to that man. What have we prepared for it? That's the most important thing, right? So, I mean, possibilities are all out there. Biden can punch Trump's eye out and he can be one-eyed in 2023. Even that could happen, you don't know. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this gathering and make it beneficial for everyone. And I just want to emphasize one thing before we end off, is that, you know, we put in the effort of listening. I put in the effort of teaching and, you know, narrating what has been mentioned in our Sharia, and the rest we leave in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the most important thing, is that we ask Allah that these words, this lecture, this series, it creates within us a change. It creates within us a burning, a fervor, a zeal to become better people, to become better Muslims, to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to better ourselves to be ready for that time. Right? Every day you wake up, you should keep in your mind, yeah, Qiyamah is coming. Whether it's my death, whether it's the real Qiyamah, it's coming. And I'm preparing myself for that time. Right? So we ask Allah that He puts benefit in my words, that He allows good words of wisdom to come out that will benefit myself firstly, and inshallah will benefit all of the listeners. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Inshallah we'll continue on next week. Our goal inshallah is going to be to keep every lecture about 30 to 45 minutes inshallah, not too long, 30 to 45 minutes. Maybe an extra 15 minutes here and there if needed. Today we went a little bit overtime. Usually it's going to be about 45. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Someone is asking, are these in person? Right now we are limited space in person, so there's a few brothers here that are with me. Inshallah when things open up we can see how we can continue. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Next week inshallah, same time, 9 p.m.